In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to find the length of an arc and how to find the area of a sector. So first, we're gonna talk about how to find arc length. So arc length is basically just a fraction of the circumference. So in the warm-up, we learned how to find the circumference and the area of a circle. So arc length would just be a fraction of the circumference. So if we're talking arc length of this part right here, we're talking only this piece. The way I like to describe it is it's kind of like the crust of the pizza. So arc length and arc measure are different because we learned about arc measure. Arc measure is just how many degrees the arc is. Arc length is actually how long it is. So if we were to take off that piece and stretch it straight, how long would it measure? Okay, and the way we find arc length is we find the fraction of the circle, which is this part. So this is the fraction of the circle. And we multiply that by the total circumference. Which is 2 times pi times r. So x represents the arc measure or the central angle. So it'd be x over 360 because 360 is the total circle. So that's the fraction of the circle times 2 times pi times the radius. The radius is, the radius. Okay. So let's look at a couple examples. So example 1, it says find the length of EF. So it's not saying find the measure. If it said find the measure of EF, the measure of EF would just be 120, but we want to find the arc length. So we're looking for, if we were to again take that piece of the circle and lay it flat and measure it, how long would it be? So the way we do it is we take the fraction of the circle, which is going to be the angle over 360, times 2 pi times my radius, which is 6. Okay, so now it's just a matter of simplifying it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're actually just going to put this in our calculator, but what we're going to do first is we're going to multiply everything straight across. So like what we've done with previous examples, I want two answers. I want the exact answer, which is going to be in terms of pi, and I want the approximate answer, which is rounded. Okay, so when we're getting the exact answer in terms of pi, we're basically just going to ignore pi, and we're just going to multiply the numbers. So we're going to multiply 120 times 2 times 6. So 120 times 2 times 6, that's 1440. So on top we have 1440 over, and then we multiply the bottom. 360 times 1. So we're multiplying the top and the bottom. So that's just 360. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to divide 1440 over 360. Okay, which in this case happens to be a whole number, is just 4. So 4 pi meters is my exact answer. Sometimes we say in terms of pi. Okay, so now to get my approximate answer, I'm just going to actually multiply that out. Since pi is 3.14, we're just going to do 4 times 3.14. So 4 times 3.14, it's about 12.56. So 12.56 meters. This is my approximate answer. Okay, so again, going over this one more time. So it's the fraction of the circle times the total circumference. So the fraction of the circle is 120 over 360. My radius is 6, so it's 2 pi r, so 2 times pi times 6. To get my exact answer, my answer in terms of pi, we ignore pi and we just multiply the numbers. So we did 120 times 2 times 6, which is 1440. So the numerator is 1440 pi. Then the denominator, we just do 360 times 1, which is 360. And then we divide the top divided by the bottom. So 1440 over 360, that gives me 4. So my answer, my exact answer in terms of pi is 4 pi meters. Then to get my approximate answer, we actually just multiply this out. Pi is about 3.14, or you could use the pi button in your calculator. It's just 4 times 3.14, which is 12.56. All right, let's look at another example. So this second example does not have a picture, so we're just going to go ahead and sketch one. So it says the diameter of a circle is 30 centimeters. Find the length of an arc whose measure is 56 degrees. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to draw a circle. Okay, and we know that the diameter of that circle is 30 centimeters. Okay, we want the length of an arc whose measure is 65 degrees. So I'm just going to draw what I call like a slice of pizza. This is 65 degrees. We want to find the measure of the arc. So we're looking for this part right here. Okay. So first thing, in this problem, we are given the diameter, but since the diameter is 30, we know that the radius, we're just going to divide the diameter in half because a radius is half of the diameter. So my radius in this case is 15. So now I can use my formula, which is the fraction of the circle. So it's going to be 65 over 360 times 2 pi r. So 2 pi, and my radius is 15. Okay, so to simplify, we're just going to multiply everything straight across. So my answer in terms of pi, we're just going to multiply the number. So 65 times 2 times 15 is 1950. So 1950 pi. And then 360 times 1 is just 360. And now we're just going to simplify this. So 1950 divided by 360. Okay, you get 5.416 repeating. So I'm just going to round that to 5.42 pi. So this is my answer in terms of pi, and my units for this one is centimeters. And then to get my approximate answer, we're actually just going to multiply it out. So 5.42 times 3.14, because 3.14 is pi. You get about 17.01. So 17.01 centimeters. So I know this answer doesn't seem like it's an exact answer because we did round the decimal, but just to keep things a little bit more simple, I'm not going to worry about getting a fraction out of this. It's just 5.42 pi centimeters. Okay. So now let's look at a word problem. So it says Alice is riding a merry-go-round at Six Flags. The merry-go-round has a diameter of 20 feet. How far does she travel when the merry-go-round has traveled an arc of 55 degrees? All right, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to draw a picture. So here's my merry-go-round. The diameter of my merry-go-round is 20 feet. Okay, so we want to know how far does she travel when she travels an arc of 55 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw in my 55-degree arc, which would maybe be this much. So we're trying to solve for this piece right here. Okay, so just kind of like the previous problem, once you draw the picture, it just becomes a normal problem. First thing we need to do is we need to figure out what the radius is because we're given the diameter. So the radius in this case is half of the diameter, so 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now we can go ahead and use our arc length formula. So it's the fraction of the circle, which is 55 over 360 times 2 pi and times my radius, which is 10. All right, then we multiply everything straight across. So in terms of pi, we're just going to multiply the numbers. So 55 times 2 times 10, we get 1100. So the numerator is 1100 pi. Don't forget the pi on top. And the denominator is just 360 times 1, which is 360. So now we divide this. So 1100 divided by 360, you get 30 or 3.05 repeating, so about 3.06. And my units in this case are feet. So there's my answer in terms of pi. To get my approximate answer, I have 3.06 times 3.14, which is about 9.59. So since this is a word problem, I do want a word answer. So I'm going to say Alice has traveled 9.59 feet on the merry-go-round. All right, so now let's take a look at sector area. So sector area is basically a fraction of the area. So instead of just looking at the crust, we actually want to know how big is the actual slice of pizza. So the way we find sector area is we take the fraction of the circle, just like in arc length, so fraction of the circle, and we multiply that by the total area. So in the warm-up, we learned how to find the area of a circle, and it's pi r squared. So it's the fraction of the circle, so x represents the degrees, or the arc, or the central angle measurement, or the arc measure, and the radius is just the radius of the circle. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples here. So example 1, calculate the sector area below. So we're getting, it's the fraction of the circle, so it's 110 over 360 times the total area, so it's going to be pi times the radius squared. The way we simplify this is the same way we simplified the previous one. So we multiply, to get our answer in terms of pi, we multiply the number, so it's 110 times 16 squared, which you should get 28160. So 110 times 16 is 28160. So on top it's 28160 pi. And in our denominator, it's just 360 times 1, which is 360. Next thing we do is we divide. So 28160 divided by 360, you get 78.222 repeating. So 78.22 pi. And the units for this one are meters squared, because area units are always squared. That doesn't mean you square the number, that just means you put a little 2 over the units. Okay, so now to get my answer in terms of pi, my approximate answer, it's 78.22 times 3.14, which is pi. So you should get approximately 245.62 meters squared. So really the only way that this problem differs from the previous one is the second part of the formula is just pi r squared, since we're trying to find area. In arc length, it's 2 pi r, since we're trying to find a fraction of the circumference. All right, let's look at number 2. So number 2, it says a circle has a radius of 12 inches. Find the area of a sector whose central angle is 80 degrees. Draw a picture. Okay, so let's start by drawing our circle. We know that the radius of the circle is 12 inches. And we're trying to find the area of a sector whose central angle is 80 degrees. So here's about 80 degrees. We're trying to find the area of that sector. All right, so using our formula, it's the fraction of the circle, which is 80 over 360, times pi times my radius squared. All right, then we multiply everything straight across. So 80 times 12 squared is 11520 pi. So 80 times 12 squared is 11520, and then we put on the pi at the end because we're leaving it in terms of pi, and the denominator is 360. And then we go ahead and simplify this. So divide by 360, you get exactly 32. So 32 pi, my units are inches, and it's squared because it's area. To find my approximate, I do 32 times 3.14, which is about 100.48 inches squared. All right, now let's take a look at our word problem here. It says a lawn sprinkler located in the corner of a yard is set to rotate through 85 degrees and project water out 25 feet. What area of lawn is watered by the sprinkler? So essentially what this is saying is that we have maybe our yard here, and there's a sprinkler in the corner, and it rotates through 85 degrees and projects water out 25 feet. Okay, so maybe it looks something like this. So 85 degrees is the angle, and the radius of this sector is 25 feet. So it's just a part of a circle. So if it helps you, you can always draw it as a circle. Okay, it's basically saying that the angle measurement is 85 degrees and the radius is 25 feet. Okay, so using whatever picture is more helpful, we're just going to plug into our formula. So the fraction of the circle is 85 over 360 times pi times my radius squared. All right, we multiply straight across, so 85 times 25 squared is 53125 pi. Okay, and then 360 times 1 is just 360. And then we divide. So 53125 divided by 360 is about 147. It says 569, so I'm going to say 57 pi. And my units are feet squared. So there's my exact answer. Now to get my approximate, I do 147.57 times 3.14. You get 463.37 feet squared. Okay, now I'm going to go over a couple of the practice problems. So number 2 says find the length of each arc, give the exact in terms of pi, and the approximate answers. All right, so for number 2, we're trying to find the arc length, which is this. So we're going to do the fraction of the circle, which is 30 over 360 times, and since we're doing arc length, it's 2 pi r. So to get my exact answer in terms of pi, we're just going to multiply the numbers across. So 30 times 2, not r, our radius in this case is 13. So 30 times 2 times 13 is 780. So 780 pi over 360. And then we're going to divide here. So 780 divided by 360 is 2.17. 2.17 pi, and my units are meters. So there's my answer in terms of pi. To get my approximate, 2.17 times 3.14, we get about 6.80. So 6.80 meters. All right, number 6, now we're trying to find the area of the sector. So number 6, the fraction of the circle is 105 over 360 times pi times my radius squared. So in this one we are using pi r squared. So multiplying the numbers across, so 105 times 8 squared, we get 6720. So 6720 pi. So 6720 we get by doing 105 times 8 squared over 360. And then we just simplify here. So 6720 divided by 360, get about 18.67. My units in this case are miles squared. The units for area are squared. To get my approximate, 18.67 times 3.14, 58.61. All right, now let's look at number 10. It says on a certain vehicle, 2 windshield wipers are 60 centimeters long, turns through an angle of 105 degrees. What area of the windshield is cleaned by both wipers, assuming they do not overlap? So basically what this is going to look like, it's going to look like kind of 2 areas, something like this. Okay, the windshield wipers themselves are 60 centimeters. And the angle that they go through is 105. So these sectors are exactly the same. I know the way I drew them, they don't look exactly the same, but they are exactly the same, which means that we can just find the area of one and then just multiply that by 2. Okay, so let's just find the area of 1. So this is going to be the area, or the fraction of the circle, so 105 over 360. Since we're trying to find area, we use pi times the radius squared. Okay, so we multiply straight across, so 105 times 60 squared. You get 378,000 over 360 pi. And then we just divide here. So divide by 360, you get 1050 pi. So that's the area of 1, but since we have 2 of them, that means this is 1050 pi and this is 1050 pi. So the total area, we're going to multiply that by 2. So 1050 times 2 is 2100 pi. That would be my total area. Okay, then to get my approximate, 2100 times 3.14, you get about 6594 centimeters squared. So the total area cleaned by both wipers, so the total area cleaned by both wipers is about 6594 centimeters squared. All right, let's look at number 12. So it says you were riding a Ferris wheel at the state fair. The Ferris wheel has a diameter of 60 feet. How far have you traveled after traveling an arc of 65 degrees? So we're going to start with our circle. So here's our Ferris wheel. We know that the diameter is 60 feet. And we have traveled an arc of 65 degrees. So we want to know how far have we traveled. So we're trying to find the arc length. All right, so pretty straightforward. It's the fraction, so 65 over 360 times 2 pi. And my radius, the diameter is 60, so we're going to divide that by 2, so my radius is 30. So 2 times pi times 30. Then we multiply straight across. So to get my, in terms of pi answer, I'd multiply the number 65 times 2 times 30. We get 3,900 pi over 360. And then divide here. So 3,900 divided by 360, you get about 10.83. And my units are feet. To get my approximate 10.83 times 3.14, you get 34.02 feet. So you have traveled 34.02 feet after traveling an arc of 65 degrees.